guys, so this is an update to last week's video on how to do inversions in split time opposites. Almost as soon as I had that video up, people were challenging me to learn how to do the same in same time opposites, which was in and of itself a pretty fun challenge to take on, but not as difficult as I'd feared. But in getting these two movements down back to back, it taught me a couple things about how inversions work both for opposites in same direction that I wasn't really expecting. And I'll show you what I mean right here. So this right here, I'm essentially doing what would be a windmill if it were above my head, but instead it's going back and forth between my arms and then back out in front of me, right? Now, if you look at this from the side, you'll realize that the cross points for both poi are straight down, right? And I can play with how I'm phasing them together such that I can get a tangle out of it, right? A little air wrap. Now, if instead I set it so that my cross point for one of these, that is my right hand, is going to be pointed back at me as I'm going through the pattern, you'll see it alters the way the pattern is shaped. From the front, it still looks like the same pattern, but from the side, it now looks more helical, almost like a strand of DNA. Oops. There we go. There's another side effect to having altered the pattern this way. It's now physically impossible for me to tangle these poi. At least, I think it's physically impossible. Now that I've said that, somebody's going to figure out how to do it. But I think for the time being that it's a safe assumption that it is impossible to tangle in that kind of arrangement, if for no other reason than the poi tethers and the poi are always pointed away from each other in the pattern. There's no point at which they overlap, right? Now, if you look very carefully at what happens inside of both the split opposites and same time opposites, inversion pattern, and specifically look at it from the side, you may notice the same thing that I did, namely that when you're performing these inversions, whether it be in split opposites or same time opposites, the cross points for the two poi, and they're still essentially doing a two-beat move. You can count it 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, so on and so forth like that. The cross points for the two poi are actually pointed away from each other. That is, when I'm doing the split opposites one, my right hand poi right here has a cross point that is set off to my left hand side, whereas my left hand poi right here has a cross point that is set over towards my right hand side as I go through the pattern. The same is true of the same time opposites pattern. I'll let you guys look at that from the side once again. So my left hand is going to initiate, my right hand is going to initiate it. And you'll note that my right hand is using a cross point that is straight up, but my left hand is using a cross point that is straight down. And things get interesting if I say switch my cross points so that if, say, I'm in split opposites, I'm going to make it so that both my cross points are over to my left hand side, in which case I wind up with this pattern right here, which if you look at it from the sides, you'll realize creates an arrangement in which the poi can't tangle. Just like the helical arrangement of my little windmill variant right here, yeah? And the same thing is true if you go into the same time opposites inversion. If I, say, decide to set my cross point with my left hand poi to be straight up as I'm going through it rather than straight down, then all of a sudden I'm just doing a normal thread the needle. A thread the needle is the exact same thing as the inversion, it's just that both of the cross points are set up rather than setting one of the cross points down. So, you know what?